This video is how to use color pencils to transition values or colors. What I have here laid out already are I have two ways of choosing your color pencils correctly. You can either choose a span of color pencils which work analogously, meaning that the colors are three colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. So I have yellows, oranges, yellow oranges, and up to a red. Or you look through the color pencils and try to find colors which change by value. So I have light blues, medium blues, and dark blues. Either way is going to create the effect that you want. So let's first talk about when you're using colors that are working analogously. So I have here a series of yellows, yellow oranges, there's another yellow orange, and then regular oranges, and then I'm also going to use kind of like a red. Now the benefit to creating these little color swatches is that it allows you to see how these colors transition. Based on the color pencil colors, you see that I have one here that really is darker than the color that I had behind it, so I need to kind of change its order that I have it just laid out. When I'm working on my designs and I'm planning on where my colors are going, I'm going to think about the whole design. But as I'm putting the colors down, so I liked how this yellow-orange looked. Let's start with the yellow-orange on one end. So using the color pencil, I'm going to go from this yellow-orange to a regular orange. So to start out with, I'm going to use my hardest value with this color pencil on the edge where I want that color to be, and then I'm going to lighten up the value as I go across and where I want it to turn into orange. From there, I'm going to take my next color. I'm going to start with a light value on top of my light yellow-orange, where I'm going to have it be very, very orange. And then as I go across, I'm going to start transitioning my value. Now to transition your value, what I'm doing is I am increasing the pressure that I'm using on the pencil where I want the colors to be bright. Your color pencil's colors should be bright and vibrant, and you don't want a lot of the white of the paper showing through. So over here where I want it to start going into a darker orange, I'm going to lessen up my pressure again and go with a lighter value over into where I'm going to have it start being a more of a darker red-orange. So now I'm going to go with a different color, and I'm going to mix and blend the values in this space all the way until I get to the other edge. Now remember, in our color swatches that we made earlier, we had a darker orange which was almost a red. I'm going to use that on the very end of this space just to add a little bit more interest, but it's not going to take over my orange space. It's just going to act as a darker value of an orange or a red orange inside of this area. So that's what I would have if I wanted my colors transitioning. Now if you look closely, I have a little too much white right here in this area, and I want to make that a little bit deeper color. I'm going to use a yellow there, to kind of blend the colors together and to make those colors much richer without changing it away from the yellow orange that I wanted. So that's how that would work. Now let's think about the blues and transitioning using a values change. So where I'm going to have my blues changing from light to dark, I'm going to start first with this really light blue right up against the edges, and I'm going to have this going all the way across. Now notice when I'm using my color pencil, I'm not using a lot of really long marks. I'm using small circles so that I have a lot of control over where my color pencil is going. If you try to make your colored pencil using really long strokes like this, what's going to happen is that you're going to see all of those lines. And most of you all, that's not really the effect that you're trying to achieve. You want to go with your colored pencil in small, short movements, which are all going in the same direction. If you're using the Prismacolor colored pencils, the good thing about Prismacolors is that they go on pretty smoothly, and they will go on very evenly if you're using them correctly. So I'm using the same amount of pressure all the way across this area so that my color is going to be as bright as I would like for it to be. Have the same color in this whole area and it's finished. And I'm going to begin to layer on the darker blues. You can layer these colors with the color pencils as well. So I have that color blue all the way filled in that space, but I want it to transition in value still. So even if I've covered the place, if you're using a color which is analogous to it or that is very similar to the color, you can add in a different color and you're going to use a value scale on top of that. So what I've done is I'm gone from this darker pressure, this darker, heavier pressure, and I'm going to lighten it up as I get toward the lighter blue. And this is going to allow myself to add some interest into my final design. And I'm going to still try to go with the same direction and the same small movements so that my color is going down evenly and smoothly as I want it before. So you always want to work on your technique throughout the entire process. Don't get lazy and start going bigger. In the darkest blues, I'm going to use that right up here up against the edges just to add a little bit of nuance and depth to my color, just right here on the edges. Alright, so that area is now finished with color. And I pulled out a couple of extra color pencils and tools that you can use. So I pulled out a white and a very light gray and a colorless blender. The colorless blenders are for when you want the color to be exactly what you intended it on being, and this will allow you to blend your colors really nicely inside of the area and kind of make your colors very, very smooth if you weren't able to really do that with your technique correctly. As you work with the colorless blender, you will want to make sure that you're going from your lightest color to your darkest color, because the color will be carried across with it. And you can use this to help you to cover up any of the white spaces that are still showing. Just make sure that before you go to the next color that you actually sharpen your color pencil again and clean it up. So that's one way that you can blend your colors. If you don't mind your colors changing in value, or if you want to maybe make the colors lighter, you can use a white color pencil. And I'm going to use the white on top of the blue. And you can see here that it actually creates a color change as if you were painting. But it works kind of like the colorless blender, whereas it's going to smooth everything out. But I'm sure that you can see that there's definitely a color change happening here. And this again is a benefit of the Prismacolors, where these colors will mix with each other and blend and work all together as if you were painting. And again, I'm still going to make sure that I'm using my small movements and going in the same direction so that my colors are smooth and even across the space.